Welcome back, everybody. For this edition of Friends on Bikes Eating Dessert, I got to admit right up front that I did not do a great job of getting my guests dessert. But we do have a chat chain now called Dessert Friends, and that will happen. There will be follow up on it. But I want to say a big thank you to Remy and Zay, who are joining me today to talk about Zwift. I have mentioned it a handful of times on the show. My friend Greg and I went over a little bit what it was, but I wanted to dive a little deeper. It's winter. There's currently a giant coat of ice on the ground outside of my window. So how do we, keep riding through all of that? So thank you, Zay and Remy, for coming and chatting with me on Zoom today.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Pleasure.
Let's start at the beginning. Remy, I think you're the one who's been riding the longest. You want to let us know how long you've been doing it and a little bit about what Zwift is?
Riding on Zwift, gosh, when did I really start? Maybe 2018, late 2018?
I thought you were about to say 20 years. I was like, holy crap.
No. Though, where would I be if I'd been on for 20 years? I don't think it existed 20 years ago.
I don't think so either.
But the short story of how I got there, must have been 2016, going into 2017. I got into a cycling club, and everything was great. It was fun, just having a good time, not super serious about it. Then into 2017, it's like, oh, hey, you're making some progress. You can get into the B group. Okay, great. Happy in the B group. I'm working. 2018 is coming around, and I noticed one of the other guys in the B group, it's my first ride of the season, and he is blazing. I'm like, Mark, what are you taking, bro? What's going on? And, as we are talking, I'm realizing, wait, how have you been riding this whole time? What do you mean? This is my first time back on my bike since the last time we rode in October. How have you been continued to train and get better? Oh, you've been riding all winter on Zwift. I'm like, dude, what the heck is that? And he took me deep down the rabbit hole, and I've been in it since.
Oh, I love that. Zay, what's your story? How'd you get here?
What's my bike story? I think I started bike commuting probably back in 2008 or so. It was two factors. I needed an easy way to get to work. I used to work at Brigham and Women's, and it was like 5 miles from home. Parking is a mess, being around the hospital area. And then two, I was too cheap to pay for parking at school. So I would throw my bike in my trunk, park wherever I could. I find a spot in Lowell and, bike back and forth. And then I started, just getting like lots of people at school were riding at the time. The big time, like fixed gear was like crazy. So everybody was buying bikes. And it was just fun. It was like great community starting to pop up. Start a small bike group in Lowell, where a couple of classmates throughout the university just got together. We'd go on like nice 10, 15, 20-mile rides, but didn't really take it serious for a while. And then somewhere around like 2014, 2015, I just started really like getting into road biking. And Remy and I have known each other for a while, and just so happened that I think he saw at some point that I was on a bike. He's like, yo, you ride too? And I was like, yeah. And we started getting together.
I remember that day.
And doing, like some pretty serious rides. We would, 20, 30, 40 miles. And he was the one actually that was like, so I'm going to start turning in for the season. Like, what are you going to do? And I was like, well, what do you mean? Like, I guess it's over for me. And he's like, nah, like, let me tell you about this program.
Let me take you with me.
Yeah, come here real quick. Let me show you the way. So, so I ended up going on Facebook Marketplace, found the trainer that I wanted, and a couple of other accessories. And, it was all reasonable within the budget that I had. So that's kind of how I'm here. And the other people that I want to give a shout out to are Brothers on Bikes and Women on Wheels. Definitely kicked me into a higher gear of being more consistent with cycling and just finding a big community that was really supportive. So shout outs to them.
Yeah, absolutely. I would not get through these training programs without that group. Let's talk about a little bit what it is. So my friend Greg described it as he had such eloquent words that I wrote down and meant to look up before this. But basically, the idea was like a virtual workout video game that you can kind of go at your own pace. But it's very gamified. You can kind of like level up and earn badges. So, but that's, very surface level. Remy, why don't you take us through a little bit kind of what it is?
Well, you hit on some of the key points that got me in the door. Because you gotta like it, right? Like you gotta have
Mhm.
fun with whatever you're doing you gotta look forward to it if it's going to work, if it's gonna stick. And, before, just to be transparent, before I even got into Zwift, I looked at some of the alternatives and different programs out there, and there are a couple of competitors, and I thought Zwift was, junk. I didn't like the way it looked visually. But as I tried some of the other competitors and, came back to Zwift, I'm like, oh my goodness, this just makes sense. And what it is, the what, is I look at it as, yes, it's a virtual world. It's like a treadmill for your bike, right? Where, the weather is crap outside, you can't go out and run, you don't feel like it, it's dark, it's unsafe, whatever, hop on the treadmill. Well, what's the option for cycling when it's too dark, when it's too cold, when it just slushed for however many hours outside? Well, get in your garage, and the thing that I love most about it is that it is your real bike. A lot of these like kind of stationary don't fit, like, you get accustomed to riding your actual bike outside, and then the fit is not the same when you get on some other bike like accessory. This is taking that same bike that you've had molded and fit to your dimensions, and then you slap that on the trainer, and as you pedal, you're moving in the virtual world, and you're, you know gaining the distance, getting that fitness, and it doesn't hurt that you're getting the stars and collecting the little points and unlocking new gear, so your guys got all the jerseys and stuff on. So yeah, it definitely makes it possible to keep going even when the conditions are against you.
Mhm. Yeah, my avatar, I just unlocked these really cool like wayfarers. Put them on
It's,
immediately. They look super dope.
it's all
uh,
about the dope gear.
yeah, I think what we're getting at is it's your bike. It's you put it on a trainer, and then you kind of have your own avatar that you're watching on the screen, so that you can see these virtual worlds. They're real places, but they're not. It's a game. But one of them is like the Champs-Elysees. It's not, but it is, which is cool.
Right.
But the nice thing about it is that depending on your gear, usually go you can kind of feel the hills. Like as you're starting to ride uphill, your bike's going to get a little bit harder to ride on, and so on and so forth. So that brings me kind of to the next part of this, actually, which is setup. So I think something for me that I actually learned
Mm.
this year was that you can do this for not that expensive. When I started really Zwifting, yeah, I was under the impression that I needed the smart trainer, I needed all of this stuff to get started, and really that's not true. So, what are your setups, Zay? What do you got?
So I was under the impression that I was gonna bike a lot, which I have been. So I was like, this is a good time for me to spend a little bit more. It also
Mhm.
coincided with a purchase of a new bike, so I ended up buying a carbon frame around the same time that ended
Ooh,
up getting my
nice.
my Zwift setup. So I have a direct drive trainer. For
Mhm.
people who don't know what that is, you take off your rear wheel and you attach it to the trainer in the same way you would a wheel. So it ties onto the cassette, and the chain goes on that. And I also have a small desk in front of me with my laptop, which is where I run Zwift through. And then I have a fan in front of me, which, if you've ever done indoor training and you don't have a fan, 10 minutes is enough to just like completely wipe you out. So I got one of the fancy ones where like it has a heart rate strap, and it's nice because when you first get on, it doesn't immediately like kick into high gear. So it doesn't like make you super cold. But you don't need that. Any fan can work. Um, I like my setup. I'm happy with it. But as you said, there's very affordable options out there.
Mhm.
The best thing that I like about my setup is it's pretty quiet.
Mm.
So if you do live in an apartment or a home where you have to consider other people around you, it is something to think about buying like a direct drive style of trainer, but it's not mandatory and it shouldn't be what stops you from doing training throughout the winter and just having something fun to do also because, you know, we've been going through the pandemic for a little over 2 years now.
Mhm.
A lot of people have gotten into biking, whether that be indoors, you know, through Peloton or Zwift or any other method that you have. But the great part is people are being active. People are finding outlets, and that's really important right now.
Mhm. Remy, what's your setup?
Well, it's a little bit of a hybrid setup. So, if Zay is somewhere more closer to the premium setup,
I know you put
um,
mine to shame.
and it's nice. It's nice. I like what you got going on. Mine is more of a Frankenstein kind of setup because unlike Zay, when I got my trainer, I wasn't sure how much I would actually use it. It was, again, somebody else taking me in. And at the time, while I still enjoyed cycling a bunch, I was very much into marathon training. And I was like, run, 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 run. So I didn't know how much I would actually use it when I got it. So I did get a wheel on trainer. And what that means is standard trainer, it does have a friction plate that spins. So your rear wheel gets affixed onto this, and as you pedal and your wheel spins, this other mechanism spins in the opposite direction, thus registering the movement and sending that over to Zwift. And it's fine. And to do that, I also learned the hard way. You need a trainer specific tire so you don't wear
Mhm.
out your road tire on the trainer. There are a couple of things you gotta, adjust for. Obviously, fan is a must, so I've got two of those going. Nothing fancy with the heart rate sensor, though. I see you. Um, but I know I'm going to get hot, so I don't mind starting with the fans going with a hoodie on and then peeling that hoodie off because I'm in my garage, nobody's around. I can make a racket. The couple of things I did add is once I realized how much I was riding, after a year riding on Zwift and then going back outside, I missed having the power data because
Mm.
everything's calculated in watts as you're riding. So I made the decision I'm just gonna get a power meter, get those pedals onto my bike. So now I have the same power profile when I ride indoors on Zwift and take it outdoors so I can keep the training by the same metrics consistent. And recently added a space heater because you know how cold it is out.
Because you're in a
Um,
garage. Yeah.
that's right, yeah, to get the garage warm. But where it does get a little bit more premium is I do have some space in the garage. I can make some noise. I have the laptop on a table, but then a 42-inch TV
Ooh,
up in
nice.
front where I can either get fully immersed into the game or stream some entertainment because
Hmm.
I kind of love that Zwift doesn't have any music on there because nobody would agree, right? But I've got a screen, so on longer rides that are lower effort, I can throw something on and just kind of listen or watch, or I can get all into it, have my avatar nice and large, and really feel like, hey, that guy in front of me, I'm gonna chase him down.
So
Yeah.
I'll trade you the heart rate monitor and the fan for that TV. How about that?
Yeah, I have the same thing. I have a trainer, it's a smart trainer, wheel on. Um, my big upgrade, I've been riding for a couple of years now. My big upgrade was the cadence sensor because I was doing the training programs, which we'll talk about in a second. And while it's nice to get all the watts and I have a vague understanding of my own cadence, it's been really nice to actually see how fast my legs are moving. Sometimes my legs are moving a little slower than they were asking for. So that's been a good uptick for me. But I'm in my basement, which, is kind of like the garage. It's pretty cold down there. I have a fan for when it's above 20 degrees out. But my biggest problem is just that it is a little noisy, and my setup is directly below my roommate. So I have to pick and choose my times. But other than that, it's really convenient. And then a couple more things I was thinking about as we were chatting is just, if you're thinking about doing something like this, some of the things to consider are, can you just put your setup permanently somewhere? My dream is to someday have a projector that I can put on the, kind of do the same thing as your TV, get really
put that
immersed.
42-inch to shame. Yeah.
Right. But if you have the space, you can kind of create this whole setup, your Zwift cave, as they like to call it. But some people don't have multiple bikes or that much space. So the nice thing about the wheel on trainers is that you can store them away, or you can take your bike on and off pretty easily. The other thing is, when we're thinking about trainers, because part of why I started this podcast was really thinking about the everyday commuter. And so I'm just thinking through all the people, Zay, that we talk to who are just getting themselves set up. You can buy the really inexpensive trainer, that's like $20-$25 off of Marketplace. And you can get that power meter, you can get the cadence sensor, the heart rate monitors, whatever you're looking for, anything that will just, basically the power is the bare minimum that you need to be able to show Zwift that you're moving forward. And then you can kind of add on top of that. So you can join in pretty quickly. You'll just have to manually shift instead of letting the trainer shift for you. So just wanted to kind of throw that out there for the audience. But
as a nice value add, just to make some, especially for those who don't have multiple bikes, something that I explored, and then I just have a garage full of bikes now, is get a spare wheel. One of the things with the direct drive versus the wheel on is, direct drive, sure, you can just hop it off the trainer, throw your wheel back on, and you're good to go. But when you have that trainer tire on for the wheel on trainer, changing the tire is much more time consuming than just popping the wheel on and off.
Mm-hmm.
So if you get a spare wheel with a cassette, keep them the same size. You can just pop one off, put the other one on, and you're out the door, get back, throw it back on the trainer. Because it's always nice when you get that random, really, really nice day in late March, early April. Ooh, I want to go outside, but I'm not ready to put my setup away.
Yeah, definitely. And
November too. We've had a couple of those. So.
True.
And just for the audience to clarify, when we're saying that you want a separate wheel or a separate tire, I mean, that's because if you think about the friction of the tire against, that friction plate that Remy was explaining, it wears down a lot quicker. So if you think about your tires on a whole, they wear down from riding outside after a while. This just wears down so much faster, having that really direct, hard contact constantly. So just something to think about. It's not a requirement, again, to ride, but you might have to change your rear tire sooner than you expected to. Great. Well, the next thing I want to talk about, and then we'll kind of wrap up with just any final tips and tricks, is just talking about, like, we talked about what it is, but like, how do you use it? I think some people they can't quite visualize, okay, there's this avatar on the screen, I have my bike on my trainer, but now what do I do? How does it work? So do you want to take us through,
Sure.
kind of free riding within the game and what else you can do?
I mean, at the heart of Zwift is riding, right? It's still a game, but there's a couple of ways that you can interact with that. You can just hop on and just move your legs on a given course. And if that has, hills or downhills, you're going to feel that on the trainer. It's going to adjust for those moments so that you have to pedal harder, faster, slower, etc. Or you can decide you want to do a specific training program. Zwift has a bunch of them already pre-loaded. You could also do something like Training Peaks or all these other great websites that are out there that have individualized plans for you. So if your plan is during the winter time to get stronger between weight training and whatever other cross training you decide you want to do, and have a specialized training program to meet some of the goals that you have, it's perfect. You can just go on there, look at the menu. They plan it out for you for, 4, 6, 8 weeks, 12, whatever you're interested in doing. So let's say we start to get into one of those training programs and you hop on your bike. What's going to happen at first is you do a little warm up, and then the game sort of like talks you through what your day is going to be like. And sometimes it's scary. You know, you look at it and you're like, ooh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this, but it takes its time. And the best part about it is that Zwift is not going to force you to do more work than you are willing to push yourself to do.
Mhm.
So there's like a star-based system. If you meet all of the goals that they've set, you get a star for that, segment. And if you don't, that's fine. You're still going to get something out of it just by being on the bike and in movement and, just enjoying yourself. So that's sort of kind of like the top level basics of getting on your bike, getting it, into one of the programs and doing a ride. And that's for a training ride.
Mhm.
Free rides, you can just stop when you want to. And another part of Zwift that's really cool is that you get to interact with other people in the world.
Mhm.
And that could be a group ride amongst friends, or you could just tag on to someone else's ride or events that they also have within the game. And I don't
Sorry,
know
there's
if you want to
little barks in the background.
add
Yeah, I think
anything else onto that.
yeah, my favorite thing, and something that is really important for everyone to remember is Zwift is here for you, and you're never going to get penalized for not doing everything on the screen. Even if you miss all of your stars, it doesn't matter. You still did the workout. If you missed a workout one week, you still go on to the next week of training. It. You're never going to get in trouble for not riding. As far as Zwift is concerned, as long as you get on the bike and open their program every once in a while, they're happy. And so you get out of it what you put into it. But I feel like sometimes people get really intimidated and, oh my God, there's so many trainings and I don't know if I can do them all this week and everything going on. And I just want to say, take a deep breath. You know, if you're out there and you're doing it, you're already winning.
Yeah, that's a really good point to remember too. Thinking of where I was, thinking that there was no training to be done over the winter. If it was a terrible day out, then that just means you weren't riding.
Mhm.
All the way to now, and I think this will be the first summer that I keep my Zwift active because the training has progressed to a point where I actually like doing some of these sessions on Zwift. And for anyone who, you know, free riding is awesome, getting into the training programs are great. But even when it gets nice outside, I find that doing some of those trainings are even safer on Zwift, where I can stay in my power zone, stay and do the, prescribed workout without constantly looking over my shoulder
Mhm.
or stopping a set in the middle of a intersection because and you work with it when you get a nice day, you're going to go outside.
Right.
But also knowing that you can get a rainy summer day and you can get caught in something, well, I'm just going to do that in the garage too and make sure I get the quality session in a controlled environment so I can continue to progress even if nature doesn't comply.
Yeah, I think that was really well put. I often compare it to like a track session for a runner. They can go and they can sprint around on a track and they can do their sets and their meters and whatever it is. And it's really hard to replicate that on a bicycle. So even if you rode outside for a few hours, you could come home and do a quick 30-minute workout. There's all different lengths. You don't have to be on the bike for 2 hours to make it quote unquote worth it. So yeah, I think that's a really good point.
The one thing I do enjoy though about riding outside is those little breaks that you give your butt when you do have to
Yes.
stop at a light. Because I don't know about y'all, but sometimes those rides just hurt when you're indoors. So
Yeah.
I've taken grace to myself sometimes and just like stopped for a quick second,
Mm.
and and paused and just regrouped and started back up again because it can just be a lot.
My first climb up the Alpe du Zwift,
Up to Zwift, yes.
which is their version of the Alpe d'Huez, which if anyone doesn't know from the Tour de France, that's one of the epic climbs that they do, the cols as they call them. And so they have a version in the game. I was like 3/4 of the way up. It was taking longer than I expected because it's just straight uphill. and my dog needed to go for a walk. I needed food. I just paused it. I came back like 2 hours later and finished it. You know what? I felt accomplished. It was totally fine.
Yeah, there are all sorts of approaches, and to the point that Zay was making, you've got free rides, you've got training sessions already built in, and my biggest benefit is the link to Training Peaks, and that's just what I use. There are plenty of other ones, but my coach will schedule the workouts, and exactly as they're dialed up, here's what you got to do, and they'll give them direct feedback on everything that you're doing. The clubs are amazing. The group rides are great. There are events going on all the time, and you can even use some of those events to do your own workout while
Mhm.
you're still kind of chatting with other folks. And then, for replicating some of that outdoor feel, a bunch of us, I've ride with Zay on a regular basis, and we'll just be on Discord and,
Mhm.
talking live and hanging out. And you're still sweating, you're pedaling. I can see him, we're suffering together. And that shared suffering makes everything just kind of, that camaraderie, it's there. And neither of us had to, get in our cars and drive our bikes across town and then wait. And then when you're done, get back. Though the cafe stops after our rides have been epic.
Cafe, brewery, you know.
And although it's not part of the setup for Zwift, I think as just touching on what Remy said, the best part is sort of like having a video meet on the side so that you can interact with your friends, because the chat feature isn't really all that fantastic within the game. But
It's
if you
really
do
hard
that,
when you're pedaling to type with your, with the companion app, and it's like there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
yeah, so having something like a Zoom or whatever, Discord is what we use because it's free, or Google Meets. Like there's tons of options out there, but whatever you can do to get a lot of faces in front of you all at the same time is what makes it just the most fun, out of like training, especially when it's super intense. As you said, Laura, like sometimes getting through these rides is just,
Oh
it
my.
feels nearly impossible, but when everybody else is suffering, you're like, all right, I got this.
We could do this when I'm not the only one doing an hour and 45-minute training. It's great. Yeah, so I'm gonna kick us off with my tip, which is to not be afraid of going on video and doing the workout with friends, because if you're riding together, you would see each other's sweaty faces. You're all sweating together, as you said. It's a camaraderie thing. So I think um, I'll say two things. One is just get in there and start trying things. There's a lot of online resources. The Zwift Insider blog can kind of answer a
Oh,
lot of
so
things.
good.
Yeah. But it definitely took me a while to really grasp everything you could do with this application. So, just get in there and start moving is a good one. And don't be afraid to be on video with your friends riding, because it will make it feel like it's going by so much faster. Zaya, any final tips?
Yeah, just as you said, get out there and have fun. And biking is for everyone. So the more people we get out there, the better it is. And it's great to see a lot of different faces, in the kind of community.
I'm so
So
sorry. Excuse me.
That's okay.
no worries.
You
And
can
get a
edit
fan.
it. I promise.
Please,
Uh,
please get a fan if you don't have one. That's definitely my biggest tip.
Definitely get a fan. Here he comes.
Sorry.
Everything
about
all
that.
right?
Yeah. We're
So
good.
Remy, in case you missed it, all I said was, just everybody get out here and get a fan.
Mhm.
You need that fan. It is the if you're gonna spend on anything, spend on a good fan.
Nice. Do you have any final tips for the listening audience?
Wow. Get on your bike. Um, is really it. The interesting thing about cycling, and I guess like really any hobby, is spoiler. The more you do it, the better you're gonna get. And I know that's not necessarily the goal for everyone, but the better you are, the more fun you can have. So that suffering we all mentioned, um, is part of that process, but I promise it sucks less. You know, you can have more adventures and go on more trips and be confident that, you know what? Yeah, we can take this crosstown ride. We can take this, you know, hill climb to this wonderful scenic vista and we can do all these things. But just getting out and doing it and feeling miserable later, that's not something then I wouldn't do it again, right? But the more you get out on your bike and the more you spend time in the saddle, the better you get, the more comfortable, the more confident, and then it just opens up a world of possibilities. You don't have to race, but the option to go on a backpacking holiday or a multi-day tour and just kind of cruise the ocean side becomes available to you, and you can enjoy it more when you're in a better condition to take it in and not just be huffing and puffing while, you know, the birds are chirping and the waves are crashing. You can actually take it all in and like savor that.
Oh, that was beautiful, and definitely where we're just going to wrap up. I'm not going to say too much more. Just thank you so much for being here. And I promise we'll have a follow up in the spring. That first really nice warm March day, we're going to get some dessert together. So thank you, Zay and Remy, for coming and speaking to me today.
Thank you for having us.
Awesome. Thank you.